Hello there, my name's Tom. I am a placements advisor in the careers service, and I'm pleased to say I'm joined by Connor Gearan, who is currently out on placement, and we're going to just have a little chat about his experiences so far. So I'll let you introduce yourself, Connor.
Hi, I'm Connor. I'm a sport and exercise science student, and I'm on placement with the Welsh Rugby Union this year, and I'm basically running all the GPS analysis for the Cardiff Blues this season.
Fantastic, thank you. So we'll get straight into it. So why did you decide to do a placement?
Well, it'd always been like in the back of my mind, even before, like when I was looking around, before I decided which university I wanted to go to, that I wanted to do a placement, because I just thought it'd be really good to get some experience in elite sport, because I know for the future that that's definitely something I want to go into, and I feel like the more it's so competitive, I feel like the more I can experience I have there, the better it'll more chance it'll give me when I graduate. So yeah, I decided I wanted to do a placement well before, probably just before I started university, to be honest.
Great. So that's really interesting that it's been a long time ambition for you to do a placement, and it's great that you've gone out and got one. As you say, sports sector, especially in elite sport, is incredibly competitive. So you're exactly right that this should hopefully give you a really good advantage when it comes to apply. So how did you find this placement?
So I've basically had contact in the Welsh Rugby Union. Basically, my dad used to play rugby back in the 80s. So and he's kept some contacts in rugby, and they were able to put me in touch with the sports scientist at Wales. So yeah, so basically I basically got in contact with him, asked him what I needed to do to apply for it. So basically sent my CV over, and then went down for the interview and took it from there, really.
Brilliant. And so did you just email the guy, or did you ring him, or how did you contact him?
Yeah, sent him an email, basically just because I'd known that there was a placement there anyway. Got in touch with him. I didn't see any adverts for it or anything, but I knew they did have it from previous discussions I'd had with him. Yeah, so I just sent him an email, asked him what I needed to do to apply for it. Yeah, and then he asked me to send a CV over. Week later, I got an email back from him saying to come down for an interview, and yeah.
Fantastic. Great. So that's your network, isn't it? You've used your network there, which is in this case your dad. But even having that network, it wasn't as if your dad sort of then introduced you to him. You still, you've got the email address, and you went yourself.
Yeah. So, like I said, yeah, I didn't know him beforehand. It was just basically my dad used a contact that he knew from Wales, and then he passed me on to him. So it was more, yeah.
Fantastic. Great. So you had your CV, you did a CV, cover letter, and sent that in. Did you get help for getting your get your CV checked or anything?
Yeah, so I had a CV written for part-time jobs and stuff originally. So I knew it probably wasn't the best for a sport application. So I mean, came into had a chat and got it looked over, and basically redrafted it so it just was more applicable to what I was applying for, rather than part-time jobs in bars and shops and stuff like.
Yeah, and did you use the careers service for that?
Yeah, I did use the careers service to do that. Yeah.
Well, great. So yeah, you went down, you had your interview, and you obviously impressed them because you got the position. So well. Yeah. And so, what was your first day like?
Well, first day was at the start of July, so they were basically just started to come back to training after lockdown. So at that point, they were only allowed to train in groups of 7, the boys. So it was pretty much straight into it with the GPS and that. Obviously, they were easing back into training, so they weren't long sessions within the groups, but I think there was 5 groups of 7 to start with. So there were quite long days to start with relative to what we're doing now. But yeah, it was pretty much straight into it. We'd had a couple of talks about how to operate the GPS software and that. But yeah, the first day it was pretty much thrown in at the deep ends, learn on the job more or less. But yeah, it was. I think the fact that they were in smaller groups and doing less intense sessions meant that there wasn't as much pressure on me to get it right straight away, which definitely helped.
That's good. Yeah, so you had that kind of bedding in period where you get all your mistakes out of the way, learn the ropes, get what you were doing, and then obviously further down the line, once you get into the new season, you're all ready to go.
Yeah.
So what is a typical day at work for you? What is there a typical day?
Yeah, so usually on a regular match week, we'll be in. I'll be getting there about 8 o'clock every morning. Then usually I'll help out with whatever gym sessions on first. Just help out with the S&C coaches, whatever way they need me to do. Like whether it's just helping spot them while they're training, or just helping tidy up the gym afterwards or whatever. Then obviously they'll split into forwards and backs for the morning session usually. So I'll go out and I'll do the GPS, track the backs for the GPS, and basically count all the line-out jumps the forwards do in the morning session. Then come back in, have some lunch, get that basically data downloaded, and basically get as much of my training report for that done as I can before the afternoon session starts, when we're out on the pitch again, and basically doing the same thing again with the GPS tracking.
So what happens to all that data that you collect?
So obviously I download all that data, and then it goes into a training report template, which has been provided for us, which they've used before with previous placement students, but that's getting updated constantly with the new data. So it goes into there, that gets complete that, send that off to the strength and conditioning coaches, who will then pass on the main information from that to the head coaches. Also, that data will then go into a big database, so we can get weekly reports, monthly reports, season reports at the end of the year as well. So
all this stuff. So am I right in thinking all this data, all this information is getting fed directly to the coaches, which means that it can actually have quite a big impact on the way that they train, or the way they play, anything. So it seems to have quite a big impact on the way that the team play and train in the longer term. Is that
right? Definitely. So it's like obviously the main thing the GPS does is tracks the distance the players are running each session. So they have an idea of, before each session, how much they want each player to run, basically just to manage the training load to try and reduce injury risks. So yeah, if they start running more or less than what they would do in that session, then it's important for them to know, so they can adjust the next day's sessions, etc.
That's really interesting. So it's quite an integral part of the coaching. But
yeah.
How have you used knowledge and skills from your first couple of years of your degree in your placement so far?
Well, like my data analysis was obviously that I've used at uni, basically from doing practicals, and the data we've recorded in the labs there is definitely come in handy, because it's a similar situation, just probably on a bigger scale, more with the boys. So yeah, basically understanding what all the data means, getting the gist of like what each player should be doing, and basically that sort of thing.
Great. So it's the sort of the data side of the stuff you've learned.
Yeah, that's definitely helped. I mean, there's been other parts of like the knowledge where basically like they've asked like questions about basically more in discussion with the coaches, what I think if a certain player is like more the technical side of things, more the biomechanics, where they think they've asked me what I think of his running, just as a neutral watching, more like sometimes especially when the physios are running the rehab with the injured boys, they can tend to have a bit of a skewed view if they think someone's getting more better than he is. So just asking for a second opinion on stuff like that with the biomechanics, and it's been.
What has been the most challenging aspect of your placement so far?
I think, to be honest, it'll probably be initially it was when getting used to all the spreadsheets and the Excel and that. I mean, like before I came here, I had quite a limited understanding. Like I knew the ropes with it, but I didn't know like how to basically make spreadsheets detailed, like how to get it all working and that. So initially that was a bit of a challenge to get the hang of that, but yeah, I feel like I'm more or less on top of it now. So
did the company provide you with sort of specific training on the programs that you're going to be using?
Yeah, so obviously like there's a separate program which basically records all the data. They went through all of that with us before we started, which was that was fine. That's pretty straightforward software considering. But yeah, so then basically getting the data out of that and putting it into your spreadsheets and stuff was a a little bit complicated at first, but on the whole, I feel like I've managed it quite well. Got on top of it now.
Great. Well, what's been the best, most interesting part so far?
Well, I mean, going to the games at this point is obviously great. I mean, obviously there's no one's allowed to go to watch live sport at the minute, so getting to do that is really good fun. Yeah, but like just being in and around like an elite sport environment every day is just it's just definitely what I want to be doing. It's
What you expected being around elite sports people?
To an extent, yeah, because like they're so like focused on the training, so like intense when they're out on the pitch. But like outside of that, it was a surprise to see like how relaxed pretty much they are outside of that. Like the way it's just sort of switches from like being so relaxed just before like minutes before the session, but as soon as the whistle goes, they're on it, and then as soon as they finish training, they're like quite chilled and relaxed again, and just like, which did surprise me a little bit. Like I mean, I maybe thought they'd probably be a bit more rugby focused 100% of the time, but no, it's quite good the way they have that relaxed environment. I feel like
just sort of humanise them a bit. Maybe.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Humans out there.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're just normal lads at the end of the day.
Exactly. So you've kind of touched up on it, but so just say if you've already answered it. But what's kind of been the biggest surprise about your placement so far?
It'll probably be that, to be honest, that relaxed environment between the players and like how basically like almost like normal it is to be like just like it feels like first day you feel a bit, especially when you're around some like international rugby players, it's just a bit like a bit starstruck almost, but now it's just like dead, like talk to them dead easily, just like it's
hanging outside the door trying to get their autographs at the beginning.
Yeah, exactly, and now it just feels like just normal, like just to talk to them like as you would anyone. It's
great, brilliant. So what are you most looking forward to the remainder of your placement?
To be honest, just carrying on with what I've been doing. Hopefully we'll have a good season with the Blues. We've started well with two wins from the start, so hopefully we'll just kick on, go well, and like hopefully I can just like play some part of a role in like a successful season. That'd be.
Can you take credit? Do you take all the credit for those 2 wins?
Well, I wasn't there before, and they didn't have the best season last season, so
that's instant impact.
Yeah, exactly.
So finally, really, it's just what are your top 3 tips for particularly for sports students? What would be your top 3 tips for looking at placements? I'd
definitely say if they're like a bit unsure about doing it, I'd definitely just say go for it. It'll be like a great experience. Like it'll be invaluable to you. Just definitely just go for it. I'd say be confident in your application. Like basically put yourself out there. Like when you go for your interview, be confident. Sell yourself the absolute best you can. Because like even for the placement positions, I know I've been told since there were over 100 applications for this one. It's just like it's still, even for the placements, it's still competitive. So just like sell yourself as best you can. And then I'd say once you start, just be yourself when you go in. Like obviously you'll get to know the players and that. So like don't try and be what, I don't know how to word it, but just be yourself. Like pretty much just like if you be yourself, you'll get on with you better than if you're trying to like please them what you think would like
I know what you mean. Don't just overdo it.
Exactly. Don't
something you're not. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Connor. That was really interesting, and it sounds like you're doing really interesting work. So if anyone is interested in finding out more about doing a placement, you can visit our website. I'll put the link at the bottom of this video. But in the meantime, thank you very much, Connor, and the best of luck with the rest of your placement. And here's hoping they win the league.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.